I'm so pleased to be speaking with Peter Cowley. Peter Cowley, who's a Cambridge-based serial tech entrepreneur and angel investor, President Emeritus of the European Business Angel Network, EBAN. You're also the UK Business Angel of the Year for 2014-2015. You're a mentor and non-executive director and dad. Peter, you've invested in over 70 startups yourself. You've spent over 20 years in angel investing. I want to go on a little bit of a trip back in time with you and remind you of your first angel investment. If you can think about what it was like, how it felt, what kind of involvement you were in, and tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. In fact, it's not 20 years, it's only about 12 or 13 years. So I'm still an entrepreneur, but I was still on several entrepreneurial journeys. And then I started mentoring somebody who'd done the same course here in Cambridge as I had, computer science. And he wanted a bit of capital to start a company. So I wrote a check, went on the board, and the two co-founders and me. At that point, I hadn't heard the term angel used for investing. So this goes back to about 07 or 08. So we went on that journey on the way through. Interestingly, that for the first time, and I've experienced this many times, one of the founders left. So we had the situation where a co-founder leaves, and that's always difficult. In this case, it's because he wanted to leave rather than we were pushing him out, et cetera, et cetera. And I've had about 15 businesses where a founder's left over the years. Anyway, so after about 2.5 years, we exited the business, sold it to a software company here in Cambridge, and I made about 17 times my money. It wasn't a large amount of money I put in, but I put a lot of time. So what I'd done was act as a non-exec director, a mentor from early investment to later. On that journey, a friend I knew here in Cambridge who'd set up the Cambridge Angels invited me to join the group. So it was only in that 2.5 year period I recognized what an angel was. So I became friends with the entrepreneur. I went to his wedding a couple of years ago here. I still meet him regularly, etc. But my angel investing career really only started once I joined the group. That made such a difference to be with like-minded people. And this will over and over again is really important. If you get the opportunity wherever you are in the world, if you can join a group of people who are more senior, inverted commas, I had more experience than you have, you will learn so much from them.
Can you give us a quick example of one of the things that you found very interesting at a very early time during your angel investing years that you had learned from that group?
From the group, yes. One of the very first things, and well, probably about 2 years in, I learned that you've got to back people and not technology or markets. Because my background is engineering, computer science, construction, and I'm very geeky. I have two wearables on here. I collect a lot of longitudinal data about my health and et cetera, about my running. And I could quite easily fall in love with a gadget, a piece of hardware, a piece of software, a market I really believed in. And that's not the right thing to do. What you've got to do is back the entrepreneurs. They need an idea. They need a plan. They need a way of spending the money you're giving them. You know, they have a route forward, but you're actually backing them as people, not the plan itself. That took me 2 or 3 years to work that out. And this was only because the rest of the group, it finally dawned on me, this is what the group were doing.
That's very interesting. I want to talk more about the investments that you've made in the portfolio of yours, which has an impressive list of deep tech startups that are working from everything from graphene to biotech, big data. I mean, I'm looking at things that almost look on a fringe science level. Is it because of your background? What exactly excites you about deep tech, and what kind of industries do you think we should be looking out for in deep tech in particular, considering you have a huge portfolio, over 70 companies in this domain, and that you're such an expert on this topic?
Yeah, a lot of questions there. First of all, it's very common for angels to invest in things that they understand, because then you can do due diligence, particularly if it's technology, or even if it's the service business, you know, you understand the market. So A, you can understand it during the due diligence to the point of investment. And secondly, just as importantly, hence the invested investor, we'll talk about later, you can contribute and assist them on their journey and help them move forward. So that's why I generally invest in stuff I understand. Biotech I don't understand, and I do that usually because I get to know the people around it, the other investors, and I back the other investors effectively investing in there. The reason there's so much deep tech is because I'm incredibly lucky to be based here in Cambridge in the UK. You know, it's obviously one of the top 5, 6, 7, 8 universities of the world. There's a lot of research going on. It's been entrepreneurial, this town, for probably about 40 years. So there's been spin outs, and there's been people like me around supporting with money and with time and assistance. And we've then, you know, made sure it's easy to get something out of the university into a commercial setting. So very lucky to do that. Of course, that doesn't guarantee success in any way at all. You know, there's the number of companies that fail is just the same as fail out there in the rest of the world. So you look at my portfolio on my website, petercowley.org, there's all the successes and failures. And it's about 1 to 2 at the moment, i.e. about a third succeed and 2/3 fail. You know, this is of the 75, about 20 have exited somehow. That's slightly better than normal. It's quite common in a technology business startup, about 1/4 succeed and 3/4 fail. In a service setup, very different. In many cases, service businesses will continue for years and years and years, but they won't scale so easily, which is why I invest in technology.
Very interesting insights. I want to go back to, clearly we now know why deep tech excites you. You're just listening to you talking about it, we can see the passion in your eyes. Can you tell us a bit more about what kind of industries and sectors are things that we're maybe not aware of, things we should look out for, things that you know, would spark the audience's interest?
Yeah, of course, that depends on the audience and where they are. And you know, it's Cambridge is very special throughout the whole of Europe in terms of, probably to some extent around the whole world. I mean, in terms of investment and startups, we're second or third only to Tel Aviv and the Valley. So, you know, I shouldn't really, wherever you are in the world, whoever's listening to this, the chance of you having the same access that I've got is basically zero. You know, I'm just so lucky. However, that shouldn't change me being able to answer your question. Most angels will invest in business. An awful lot of angels invest in service businesses because they're more comfortable with that. They've come potentially from a consumer background or a business service background. Service businesses don't need so much capital because they've got customers quite early on, unlike tech businesses, which generally are developing something and then potentially developing the market. So the things that I see are quite special. Of course, COVID has changed things dramatically. We've seen an awful lot of stuff come online. So the number of opportunities in fulfillment, in e-learning, in medicine delivery, psychoanalyst delivery has been phenomenal. Supply chains have shortened. I don't know whether that's in your country, but certainly it appears that, you know, the global trade will shrink to some extent, and which is much more exciting for economies because we're buying more locally. It means things will be a bit more expensive, but it does mean you're supporting your local country. So no, it's, you know, obviously I'm involved in machine learning and personalized health and material science. I'm quite unusual in that because I've had my technology background, my startups have generally been hardware. I actually don't mind investing in hardware. Most angels don't like that. They don't like supply chains. They don't like working capital requirements, etc. The agility of a hardware change is so much slower than software. With software, you can change a button color just like that. With hardware, it can take 6 months to make a change to a product. So I haven't really answered.
Let's go back to talking about investors.
Yeah, carry on.
And you're an investor platform. You wrote a book with that title. You have an online hybrid platform that also supports onboarding angels. Can you tell us a bit about this and how could angels and founders benefit from your platform?
Yeah, so the reason I did this, which is the first book, was to try, because I do an awful lot of talking, lecturing, and I tried to scale myself by producing the content delivery going instead of 1-to-1, if you were being mentored by me, 1-to-many. And so the best way to do that is with the podcast, so you can see on the platform, plus a book. So this book was aimed at angels who are only just starting, learning how to be angel investors. It turns out that 3/4 of all the readers of this are entrepreneurs trying to work out how to get funding from us and how to work with us. But it's pretty honest and open. It talks a lot about failure and avoiding failure. So having written that, then I wrote this one, which is not really my book. It's 100 entrepreneurs all talking to other entrepreneurs. So this is amazing. Trying to restrict the number of mistakes, because in the end, all these journeys are fraught with errors, whatever, you know, hiring the wrong person, picking the wrong customer, etc., etc. And if you can reduce those mistakes you're much more likely to succeed. So it's all to do with scaling myself. That's what I did. And as you mentioned earlier on, I actually co-founded it with my younger son, and he's learned so much from the 2 or 3 years we've been working together.
That's amazing. I think that's all the time we have. In case they need to learn more, what would be the website that they should go to?
Yeah, investedinvestor.com. You can see it behind me here. And then you can buy the book, either Kindle or audiobook or printed book via Amazon, depending on which country you're in, whether you're going to get access to that. So, for the podcast,
thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.